Johann, one game remaining in the 22-23 season. We last caught up in January. How do you feel the second half of the season has gone?
Really enjoyed it. I certainly believe we've become a better team. We spoke about being tough to beat, and specifically the last few weekends. That's not only been tough to beat. That's going into results. I'd say we had some big moments in games. The Glasgow away was satisfying, though disappointing that we didn't beat them on that Friday evening in Glasgow. The one that really hurt was the Sale game. Being up last scrum of the game, we get penalised, and we concede after being behind by a lot, but coming back and fighting back. And we gradually got better through the season. The bit that cost us at the start of this block was the yellow cards. I think back to the Leicester game, started really well, conceded 2 yellow cards and conceded 3 tries, and playing away to the champions, you don't want to play catch up. And the Northampton one was an interesting game. We actually played some pretty good rugby, but we conceded some soft tries. There was 3 points in it at half time, and we conceded that yellow card. They scored a maul try, and look, Northampton are going to score tries, and we gave ourselves too much. And I think the satisfying thing was we stuck to process. We said that we're not going to vary from our plan through the season. Yes, there's small improvements or small changes that we wanted to make, but the block has been really, really good, and a long way to go, but a massive improvement since the 11th of July.
Yeah, a massive improvement, as you say, and improvements to make. One of the progress points has been the record run of try bonus points, of course, and that's really encouraging. Are there any other parts of our game that you've been really encouraged by, and what specifics are we looking to improve on as we move into year 2?
Look, I believe in an all-round pressure game. The Premiership is so unique. You start off in good weather, then the weather turns, take you back to the Newcastle game on the 31st of December, and then you get the weather that we had against Quins at Twickenham. So you need an all-round game. Our set piece at the start of the season, wasn't good enough. I think our scrum the last few weeks has been phenomenal, specifically with injuries staying away, consistency in selection. I felt our maul has been a big weapon the whole season. Last season, what I identified coming in was we didn't score maul tries, and we conceded multiple maul tries, and we've got a positive balance in terms of scoring maul tries, and I believe we're just behind Gloucester in terms of that stat. So the set piece has gone really well. I think we've applied pressure with our kicking game. If you look at the Exeter game, some of the tries that we scored, some of the penalty advantages that we had. I take Joe Cognacina's try against Gloucester, dominant scrum, go for the 50-22, get to bounce the ball and score a try. And then from our defence, we've scored some fascinating turnover tries. And then specifically looking at the Quins game at Twickenham, with that last play, the line that Ollie ran, and the way that Max finished it, we've become better in all parts of our game. I think one of the things that you don't speak that often about is the breakdown, and I think some of our poachers have really made a big difference. I take you back to when I started. I said that we've got to be competitive both sides of the ball, and having someone like Chris Luther, Sam Undil, that 25 minutes he had against Gloucester, and then some of the players that's really had good seasons: Miles Reid, Josh Bayliss, Ollie Lawrence in the wide channel, and again the extra game, someone like Joe Cognacina getting a turnover. So our defence have given us some good reward, and then we've become better in our attack and in our phase play. I think we've become really difficult to stop 5 yards from the opposition try line. I believe that you've got to make sure that you keep gain line and keep generating quick ball, and we've become difficult there to stop. In terms of progression, there's been a massive amount of progression, but we as a group are nowhere near where we want to be, and hopefully we finish the season well, and then we're really looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, you mentioned attack there, and in recent matches, obviously it's gone well with the bonus points. It leads to somewhat of surprise from supporters that Joe Maddock has left the club. As you can imagine, there's a lot of emotion around Joe leaving, given his history with the club. Can you explain why Joe has left?
Firstly, Joe's a fantastic man. He loves Bath. He'll go down as a legend at Bath Rugby for what he contributed. In terms of he's added to us this season. But as I said at the start, I see every year as a train journey. This train started on the 11th of July, and it'll make a stop, and some amazing people will get off the train, and some new people will get on the train. And that's professional sport. In terms of Joe and I, the utmost respect for him, and great club man.
Talking about people getting on the train, Lee Blackett. What do we like about Lee Blackett? What is it that as Lee as a person and as a coach is right for Bath Rugby?
I think you always look at the person first. Utmost respect for him. Coached against him when I was at Munster and now at Bath. A family man. And then the difference that he makes to players. If you look at the players that he's coached before, he's made a real difference, not only in their rugby careers but in their lives. And in terms of the way that he coaches and what I believe we need for this team going forward, he's got to play a big part in that. When I speak about rugby IQ, it's the ability to identify the strengths in your players and making that better. Understanding where we are as a group and what we need to improve on and how we can pressurize the opposition, and you always get the other side of the ball. And that's where the fascinating battle between attack, defence and kicking game comes in, and really looking forward to work with him, and he will certainly bring something different for us in year 2.
Another person to bring something different, Richard Blaze, appointed as an assistant coach as well. Great track record with Leicester Wasps and more recently Loughborough. What is it about Richard that you like, and is it that confrontational element to sides that he's coached gone by that you really like?
I came across Blasey more than a decade ago when we were still very young coaches. Not that one of us are very old at this stage, but followed his career, stayed in touch with him. That Leicester forward pack was certainly, in your words, confrontational. Hard edge around them, but clinical. And then if you've followed his journey across all the national teams, and then what he did at Wasps and the line-out that they had, the mould that they had, and some of the things that they've done with their forward play is something that I did, and I believe he'll make a difference in terms of our forward pack. As I've said before, we are by no means close to where we want to be, and this is the people's business, and you get good people and then they're at their rugby nous, and he certainly has that in the line-out.
The decision to bring him in sees Luke Charteris move into an academy role. What is it about Luke that is successful and great to keep part of this club?
Firstly, Luke played at Bath Rugby, and he went straight into coaching. He absolutely loved this place. He's put his heart and soul into Bath Rugby, and Luke will develop as a coach, and I see a future for him in our pathway in our academy, and he also wants to improve as a coach, and that's something that we'd like to do. Is part of Bath Rugby, and in terms of the younger players, it's very important across our pathway that we look after the pathway, and he'll play a big role next year in that bit.
A lot of change that we've talked about there, and it coincides with 17 players being announced as leaving so far from Bath Rugby. It's a lot of players, but given the state of the game and the salary cap constraints, is that the main reason why so many are leaving the club?
I think the number one thing to note was July 11th, I said to the staff and the players that we'll focus on connection, we'll focus on clarity and commitment, and all the players bought into the plan, the future, the vision, the club, what we want to achieve over the long term. Everybody bought into this example of this train journey that we don't know how the year is going to pan out, but we're all going to be invested, and I committed to them that I will look after the players with care and with clarity, open communication, and we've every single one had an open communication channel, and that's the unfortunate bit about professional sport. If you just look at Wasps and Worcester, what's happened there with some of their players playing for our team now, and it's such a difficult place to be in. You'd like to retain as many players as possible. I guess the thing that coincides with that is also performance, and that means that you've got to recruit other players with different strengths and different attributes that I believe will help us to develop and progress as a group. And you'll always have change. Change is inevitable, and it's the way that you manage that change. And there'll be a lot of very good men walking away from Bath Rugby at the back end of this season. But they will all walk away with fond memories, and we've had such a good year together. Not always in terms of the results, but in terms of what we achieved on the inside of these walls. There'll be a memory for me for the old day.
Two players that have also been part of that we haven't talked about on either side of the coin, Fergus Lee Warner, GJ Van Veltzer. What's the situation with those two?
We'd love to keep them. I hope that they stay at Bath Rugby. I can't speak about contractual detail, but I'd like to believe that hopefully we can get them across the line, and hopefully they can continue to add the way they've added. In terms of Fergus, didn't know Fergus at all. Watched him play for Worcester, and met him and Ollie there in my kitchen a few months ago, and this Australian guy that I didn't know made a massive difference to our season, and he's such a great team man. And then GJ, there were a lot of questions around my decision to bring GJ into the club. Number one, as a leader, as a man, as a captain at all the teams that he's been involved with. But if you look at his performances over the last few weeks, he had that unfortunate big shoulder injury against Irish in the early parts of the season. But he's taken that forward, back that line out by the scruff of the neck, and we've been really good in that department over the last few weeks. And I'd really like to believe that he'll contribute massively towards us for next season.
It is a slimmer squad for next season, but does that put more of a focus on our pathway and getting players through the system by adding resources and adding time into that part of the club?
Yeah, look, the salary cap is a reality. Financial pressure is a reality. Together with Bruce and the board, we decided to sign which I call high-value players in terms of what they will add to this team in the coming years, players that will make a real difference on the pitch. Good examples of that have been Ted Hill and Ollie Lawrence. Ted winning our forward of the season and Ollie winning the supporters player of the season just showed what a difference they made. That means that we'll have less senior players, which means we will have to be even better as staff, coaches, managing these players. And then the resources that we're going to add to the academy and the pathway is incredibly important, because you need your homegrown players to come through. And you know, we've got a lot of exciting ones. I'd like them to get better quicker, to get game time, not only in the Prem Cup, but to become starters for this Bath team. And now, I don't want to name drop a few, but we are going to push our younger players through to make sure they develop alongside players that we have from a senior point of view. And I'll use one example, what I mean. How brilliant will it be for John Stewart to be in between, you know, Benno Bano, Thomas de Toey, Will Stewart and Johan Skuman. What a great learning opportunity it is for him. But it's not about the opportunity, you've also got to make it count on the pitch. And you know, I believe we've got players that can do that, and that's going to be a big focus for us.
Yeah, it's all about the commitment and clarity and connection, as you've mentioned. And we'll talk about the awards that we've just had at the club. And three men that you wanted to speak about: Miles Reid, Richard de Carpentier, and then the winner of the Clubman of the Year, Tom Dunn. They epitomised that this season, haven't they?
Yeah, I think every club is different. Bath are very different to the previous clubs that I've been involved with, and you know, Clubman looks different at every single club. Firstly, Miles, the player that turns up every week. He has his book, he asks questions, he wants feedback, he wants to improve, he does the extras, but he cares for his teammates and he helps them to get better. He's had a phenomenal season. Chippy, Richard, I can speak on half an hour about him. You know, for an older player to not always be selected, the way that he has handled himself around the group, the influence that he has around the group, it's incredible to see him amongst the group. He's got a good sense of humour, which I've enjoyed. But again, the man that he is, that'll be missed. And yeah, I can't speak highly enough of Chippy. And then Danny, you know, looking from the outside in, you see Danny play, and you know, you don't know the guy with the funny hairstyle. And when I shook his hand for the first time, I saw something different in him. I saw a love and care for this club. And I remember when Ben got injured against Sale, the next week I asked him if he would take over the captaincy, and the pride that he had to lead Bath Rugby was incredible. And you know, he was the talisman in a lot of games. And coming back to the club man, but is also the credit that he gave others. You know, Niall Annett has been a huge part of the club. And I remember the Leicester game at home when Niall started, and the support that he gave Niall, and you know, then him coming on, making that impact. I don't know if you remember the 22 that he charged down, and he literally changed the game on his own. And then coming back to those three things: connection, what a connection he has with the supporters. He seems to know everybody in Bath. Everybody loves him. He wants clarity. Where are we going? Where are we as a group going? And he's bought into it. He signed a new deal with us, which I'm so glad about, because you need people from Bath to lead Bath, and then that commitment bit. I've said it a few times. You've just got to look at his body. I think Danny, by his own admission, he'll never be the most gifted player, but what he gives in spades, you know, what he did when he went to England, you know, being close to the 23s, attitude when he came back, how highly he spoke about the England environment under Steve, and then straight back onto this training pitch, and then, you know, sometimes only getting back here on a Thursday afternoon, and then back into our team on a Saturday. Yeah, look, Danny is a deserved winner of the Clubman of the Year.
It's players like Dunny, Ben Spencer, Josh McNally, GJ that have had real leadership to our group this season. How important is that going into a game against Saracens where we still have a lot to play for?
Leadership is one of the most used words in any organisation, whether the sport team or business. Leadership is incredibly important, and very proud of the way that the leadership team group have grown, and there's quite a few of them. I think a sign of progression is when your players take accountability, and when they take accountability with yourself. And the names that you've mentioned, they've taken accountability for the team, and we're all pulling in the same direction. We all want to get better. We want to get better every day. We all acknowledge when we haven't been good enough. And this season there's been a lot of ebbs and flows, but the leadership has been excellent, and again, high praise to the playing group.
Yeah. Will progression be solidified by a top 8 finish this season, or is it about what we've experienced together this season and going into that second year?
I'm going to be very consistent with my messaging. At the start, I never said that we need to finish at a certain point to make this season successful or not. You can look at every metric and stat this season. If you look at that, there's been improvement across all areas. Personally, would I love us to play in the Champions Cup next season? 100%. It's a competition that I absolutely love. From a club point of view, it'd be brilliant for us to be in the Champions Cup next season from where we were on the 11th of July. If it does not happen, then we move forward again. We are not chasing a Champions Cup spot on Saturday because we haven't changed any position from the day that I started here. What we have been chasing is connection, clarity and commitment, the hunger and willingness to get better. And whether it's a staff member, a coach, a player, everybody wants to get better every day, and that's the exciting bit about the future. So if we make it on Saturday, we're going to give it our very best shot. It'll be a nice cherry in the cake for the season. I'd like to believe that we as a group are in a very good place because of the rugby we've played over the last 5 weeks. Specifically the last 3 weeks, if you look at the Exeter game, that was a battle. That was a team that played in the Champions Cup semi-final. If you then look at our performance against Gloucester, the emotion of the players, the staff that were there last year. I wasn't there last year, but to go to a club that we lost 64-0 a year ago, we were down 17-0, and again, back to your question, we just stuck to process. We just went at the things that makes us good as a group, and we turned that around. And what a feeling for the group to see the joy on their faces after that victory, and then that weekend at Twickenham. The turn left. I've had this with the Springboks a few times. If you drive towards Twickenham, you turn left into the stadium with the stewards walking you in, and I didn't expect that many people, but then a sea of Quinn supporters and Bath supporters, and getting off that bus and experiencing Twickenham. A lot of players haven't played there at all, and what a game of rugby. All credit to Quins in terms of the way they performed and the show they as a club put on there. But the way we played, the way that we stuck to process, that we came through difficult moments. With 5 minutes to go, all of a sudden 3 points in it. We had 7 losing bonus points this year that we were in one score, one moment of winning the game. And Will Stewart, ice on his leg, coming on for Darcy that had to go off. We got that scrum, the backs executed, and we actually win that game by 10 points. That was a massive moment for us as a group. So, we're getting better. The best is definitely yet to come.
And the best is yet to come with a fantastic supporter base, as you just mentioned. How much have you enjoyed getting to know them over the last year, and how much will it be nice to say thank you to them in a packed out Rec on Saturday?
Look, six sellouts in a row now at the Rec. Where does that happen in the sporting world? I think there's very few clubs, provinces, teams that can say that. No, it was amazing to see their support for us through the season. I think back to the Northampton game when I heard that "Come on, you Bath" for the first time, that noise across the rec, and the happiness I saw on people's faces. I remember Cam's try, the noise that went around. The Leicester one where Butty scored, the scenes that I saw across the rec straight off the winning of that game. And then if I can fast forward to the Twickenham game, I spoke about driving with the bus, but a big moment was, two big moments for me about the supporters is I walked across the pitch to my family after the game, but seeing the staff at Bath Rugby and what it meant to them, because people that have been here for quite a few years have had some ups and downs, but seeing them so proud of their team but so happy. And then the second moment is when we walked out of the change room to the bus. I think there might have been 500 or 600 Bath supporters there, and you can see that the belief is back. That number one, they've always backed their team. They love Bath. That's undeniable. But the belief is there from them that yes, we're getting better. Yes, we're building towards something. Going quietly about our business as a team, we know we've got their support, and specifically at the rec, incredible support really. Can't speak highly enough of them.